Rich, that's the street that cuts up between 611 and the Bridge Street Hill, correct?
I think so.
So the only question I do have, and I understand up in your neighborhood, it's a tight area, but you have that store at the end with deliveries with 18-wheelers. Where would they be parked? And I think that's what happens is they park up that side street and they end up exiting that way. And I understand, but where would the 18-wheelers be going at that
I would
point?
have to refer that to me, I should know that.
That's, in my opinion, that's exempt because they're there for a purpose. It's a no-through trucking
It's no
ordinance,
through,
so it's the
But I think
of
that's what
passing.
and I think that's what the neighbors are complaining about, the 18-wheelers that are coming up there. But I think they're coming from that store. I just want to make sure that they're not parked in the roundabout. You know what I mean? It's going to be an interesting day when that happens because
Stores there.
also they're coming up this way.
They're going down the branch. They're not going to branch.
Well, it's they go through any of them, any one of those streets in that neighborhood.
So if that's a complaint, that's something that I think Major Rushville can address with the store owners to get on the same page to accommodate the neighborhood.
The committee did that.
Yeah.
No, they don't. I know they do the normal. Any comments from the council? Any public comment? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jason?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Mary Beth?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you.
New business, consideration of request from Angela Coburn for appointment to the West Warwick School Committee.
See Angela's in the crowd.
And the crowd is here. Yeah, basically.
I see a lot of school committee members, a lot of other public officials. So, Angela, just come on up here, introduce yourself, tell us what you're going to do for your appointment to the school committee.
No pressure, right? No pressure there.
Hi, my name is Angela Coburn. I'd be very excited to be able to work with the town, with the school committee, and just, my biggest thing is I love kids, and I just want to do what's best for them and the town.
Anybody have any questions for Angela?
I don't have any questions, but I've known Angela for a long time. Her children were in school with my children. Ryan and Abigail were in school together.
Ryan was got married.
I do know that. So she's already involved in the town. I mean, the number of children that have gone through Let's Dance with Gary and Angela probably could fill at least one school. So we certainly do have West Warwick at heart. There's no question about that. And I think you'll have a lot of young kids. And you're involved with the cheerleading. You've done a lot already. So you're ingrained already. I think it's a very good fit. And I'm excited for what you can bring to the school committee.
3 years of meeting for this term?
No, it's actually one
It's
year.
only 2 years pursuant to the charter, Article 19, Section 1903. The position will be up at the next regularly scheduled election. So she'll fill the vacancy until 2022, and then if she chooses to run again, she'll have to run.
So
What's split up? I know that.
No, it won't split up. So what will happen is in 2022, Ward 5 would have just a school committee election. And in 2024, they would have a school committee election once
So
again.
a 2-year term in 2022.
And then it would go back to the normal.
The 2024 would
And
have
it'll go into the cycle. So it's basically two elections in 3 years' time, if she decides.
Well,
to stay.
one appointment and then another.
Well, there's an
Right.
appointment and next November.
There's
comes.
one extra election.
Next November comes quick, I'll tell you that. And then 2 years from now, you all know how 2 years goes by. So.
We do see that we have the school committee here and the superintendent here. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything. Lou is the chair of the school committee.
Thanks, guys. I just want to welcome you to it. Once the time makes the determination, I'm really looking forward to working with everyone for many years. Everyone on the school committee, very excited, looking forward to the opportunity. We know that she does, and reiterate, when you're back
not saying, just, you do know that she has the children in town in her best interest. A lot of them have come to her hands over the years, and she's always been about the kids and the folk.
And you have some big shoes to fill. I think the previous school committee member had size 16. I think it was size 16.
15 or 16,
Yeah.
that's right. That's
So,
exactly right.
I just want to point that out.
Yes.
Yes.
Any other comment from the council? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call
We
vote.
gotta
on
move the name first.
that. Oh, okay, yeah, you didn't
Move
do
the name of Angela Coburn to the West Warwick School Committee.
Second.
that. Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Jason?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Mary Beth?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Welcome, we look forward to working with you.
So our feelings won't be hurt if all you school people want to leave now. You're welcome to stay, but our feelings will not be hurt, all right? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
They would have waited awkwardly for 5 minutes.
Sneaking out one by one.
We can have 80%.
Just got upgraded to second row.
No?
It's like going to a Red Sox game these days. You can move up a little closer. Towards the
You ready to go? Okay. Approval of claim from Michael and Michelle Marchetti for tree removal at 11 Parker Street.
I'll move the claim.
Second.
Moving second. I put this on the agenda. Well, I brought this before the town clerk's office. Mr. and Mrs. Marquetti reached out to me. They had a town tree fall down in their yard, blocking their driveway, hit their porch. It was on a Saturday. They did call down to DPW. Obviously, it was a Saturday. We were not open. So they had to go out and about and try to get this tree removed. They knew when the tree companies came, tree company gave them a price of $4,000 to remove the entire tree. They said, no, that's not our tree. They actually thought it was the church's at the time. They just want to get their driveway cleared out so they can get out. So it was $2,000 to remove that size tree, if you can see the size of it, out of their yard, take all the wood out. They did get $500 through their homeowner's insurance, so they're not looking for a full $2,000 from us. They were looking for $1,500. Later on in the week, when it was discovered that it was a town tree and not the church's tree, our DPW brought in from another neighbor who called and was concerned about it falling towards their house. Our DPW brought in Northeast Tree Service, and they cut down the rest of the tree from Northeastern Tree Service. So ultimately the tree was our responsibility, but unfortunately it happened on a Saturday when nobody was there, so they had to take care of it. They were blocked in. The tree was on their cars. They're not looking for any damages or anything from the town. They're just looking for that $1,500 reimbursement. So I'm just looking for council approval.
Where would that come out of?
DPW. They would have had to take it out of theirs to take down the tree to begin with, where they take the trees down now. So
Do we have a retainer with Northeast?
we have a retainer with Northeast. We have an agreement with Northeast, but the problem was they couldn't get in touch with anybody on Saturday. You know, it was brought up to their attention. Honestly, they thought it was the church behind them, it was their property. So they reached out to the church. The church said, no, that's town property. It's right on the sidewalk. And sure enough, it was definitely not wrong.
The only suggestion I would have is if the council does include this, that the owner sign a release prior to the issuance of a check.
Just got to reach out to them, have Tracy. Tracy's been working with the resident back and forth. And I think Don and Freddie also. They've had numerous conversations with her and just gotta have her come in. Personally, I wouldn't even mail the check, have her come in, sign the release, and give it a check. Kristen, if you wanna, how that would work, if it gets approved.
That's fine.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Request from National Grid for installation of new pole and anchor at 83 Pulaski Street.
Motion.
I'll move the installation of the pole for National Grid.
Second.
Moved and second. Discussion? Anybody have any concerns? It's your award.
No, I don't. I think it needs to be done,
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Approval of collective bargaining agreement between the Town of West Warwick and the Rhode Island Council 94, AFS, CME, AFL, CIO, West Warwick Employees Local 2045, effective July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2024.
Move approval of the collective bargaining agreement.
I second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Any public discussion on this contract? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. You're welcome. I heard you.
Road bond, road repair update.
Don, come on up. What a hot seat tonight.
So you should be thankful I let the school people go. Yeah.
I think Barry Betts set that up.
Yeah.
Get them out of here before they lynch you.
Exactly.
Don Willett, DPW Director.
You brought that big box of that folder?
No,
Just check.
there's a lot in there. Crack ceiling, we'll start with that. So far, we've gone through 28,000 gallons of crack sealing, about a third of what we budgeted for. We still have 47,000 left. We have completed about 44 to 45% of the roads. I calculate that with those numbers, we should be seeing about 160,000 left over at the conclusion of this contract.
Question on that,
Yeah,
because I know you have a lot to go over. So whatever's remaining, where does that go?
wherever you as a board decide.
So-
To make that decision.
So there'll be residual, we anticipate having residual funds from that portion of the project. Once we near the end, we can forecast what we have left in the variety of applications that we're doing and redesignate some hot spots that we feel need to be upgraded or that didn't get attention at all.
How long can we, I know previous road bonds, 5 years, I think, Kristen? And then whatever didn't get completed was held over in the town.
That was a different kind of,
Right.
that was a different kind of bond. This
Okay.
one is through RIB, so it's a little different. We got all the money up front with that one,
Okay,
so it's a little different.
okay.
I'm sure there'll be no problem with RIB.
But we're not going to lose it, is what I'm trying to
No.
say.
Yeah.
I think it'll be well used before the 5 years is up. So
Well, this is a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
It's a 2-year contract that we have currently.
Okay.
And I expect to get the majority, if not all of it, spent in 2 years. All right? Cracks, so you kind of know, the crews have been fantastic out there. I don't know if you've seen them. They're blowing the cracks out. They've got heat that's being put into them. They've got a flamethrower into it. The product that they're putting in is excellent. They're spraying it with a coagulant at the end of it that it makes it set a lot quicker. I'm not going to tell you that absolutely no product gets up on cars
I've had it in the town vehicle on the tires a little bit, but when I drive 2 miles and it's out usually. So again, it's not a big deal. At the end of the day, I get a slip from them, which basically tells me where they were at, how many gallons they've used, and what's left. They're essentially, per crew, we're doing about 800 gallons per day.
Now, what about, there's been particularly one, Pawtucket Terrace, I noticed there was a couple of spots that maybe, how does it work when you fill in the spots? Because there's a few spots that definitely had holes, but they weren't necessarily cracks, so how do they determine where they fill?
When you go through that original list that I gave you on cracks, there was a line item for FDR, full depth repair, and that is something that will go back. So when you see a road that's nice, we get the crack sealing in, and then all of a sudden you see a bunch of alligator cracking.
Correct, yes.
They will put some of the product on the alligator cracking just to hold it together, and then we come back later in the year and we'll do the full depth patch.
Okay.
And that's the equipment that you bought. The mini excavator will do a lot of that, and the reclaimer that we purchased, a hot box reclaimer, etc. So we should be able to do that up and through December, and we should be able to start in February, assuming we don't have the winter from the north.
Is it when, obviously it's weather dependent, but once you get the first snowstorm, is it off? Or, you could obviously, we could have 3 weeks where it's beautiful after, so.
We need temperatures in the low 30s to operate the reclaimer. And the mills now, the asphalt mills are staying open. It's a little pricey. They don't, you won't get it at $50 or $65 a ton, but you will still get it at $70, $80 a ton. And we're not going to be doing such a large volume that it's overwhelming in the budget.
But it was beneficial to obviously get as much done as we can while the weather's still.
Correct. All right. So that's crack sealing.
So basically, Don, your accounting is the slip that they give you at the end of the day as to how much they spent, how much they
How much they use, how many gallons.
Because it's all the same price per gallon.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I didn't make copies of this, but I'll hand it around so you can take a look. The pink is the areas that they've done, and then the other slip is just one that says streets that they've done. So it's just 2 different Excel spreadsheets, and I'll forward those to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Now, I've been to 3 of the processes. One is the crack sealing. You're right, it's very impressive. A couple of guys in front, one with a flamethrower, one with a asphalt liquid squirter. What I want to say.
Another with a backpack.
Another one with a backpack blowing stuff out. It's a very detailed process when they're doing it. So, and I know Councilman Licciardi and I both have questions and concerns about people who, and even when you talk about settling, even if you look down at the towards the Labor Day parade in the back road, Knight Street, a lot of parking was going on there, a lot of tire scuffing and whatever, and that was done a few weeks ago. So, how long does it take to set, and how much damage can happen?
It should be set pretty much by now. It may take another year for it to get completely cured, but again, you're already getting protection out of it. And the crack sealing is not a permanent repair, but you should get 3 to 7 years extra on the road life. They're not trying to, that's not the only treatment that road needs. At some point in time, you're going to have to do the microsurfacing. You may have to do a mill and overlay. One of the common practices was to crack seal and then come back 2 years later after it's cured to the point where it won't bleed through asphalt, and do a mill and overlay where they mill off an inch and then they come back and do that. Again, it's there's a whole bunch of other things you can do. That's why you need to get into more of a program management, road program management type program. So,
what's the breakdown of how much we spent for the seal and how much?
Well, for the crack sealing was $900,000, a little over $900,000. I think you're going to get 160 of that back. Okay, and again, the list is, as you can see, is very, very extensive.
And it breaks down on there which one's got which treatment, or this is just
This
a list?
is just crack
Just the
seal.
crack seal list, okay.
So when I see a duplicate name,
I don't know what happened on that.
Okay.
I did notice that on
so I just
more
want to
than
make sure
once.
that several times, I want
Yeah.
to make sure that we make sure we're not paying twice.
We're not paying twice, it's
Yeah.
by the gallon that we're paying for,
Okay,
so.
and
Okay,
you're going to send those to us?
I will send
Yes,
those.
thank you.
Okay. Second process was the microsurfacing. This is a sample of what the microsurfacing is. It's 3/8 inches. It's done in 2 coats. I did get a lot of complaints on the first coat, and then when the second coat got put down, most of the complaints went away. I did 2 neighborhoods with that this time around. The Newell Street neighborhood, all but 2 roads. There were 2 roads that need to be reclaimed. They were just too far gone. And then I did, I did Pulaski Street, and I did a neighborhood up in Phoenix.
Summit
Ave, and
Atwood, Navarro, Aberdeen.
And that product, I've actually used it in another community, and I put it in 7, 8 years ago. It's still holding up today. I have a lot of faith in that. You put the crack sealing down, and then you to clean the voids out. If you don't, they will reflect through. That holds together really well with the crack sealing. And again, you should get anywhere from 7 to 10 years more life on that. And you can come back and put a second coat of that. You don't have to go and do a mill and overlay or anything of that nature. It's quick, it's easy, it dries fairly quickly. Unfortunately, we had a heat wave when we were trying to start it out, so that made it a little more difficult, but I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised with that product. That's about $7 a square yard, and it's very cost effective, and again, you're getting pretty good bang for your buck. That might be something where you might want to pick a couple other communities later on down the road. I'm thinking of Sydney and Kowalik and that neighborhood. You got very light cracking there. It's all been crack sealed. That might be a very good place to go. Burlingame may be a place where we turn around and address it later on. So there are some other places, but I wanted you to see it before we turn around and make a commitment to it.
So Don, you're 100% right. The first day was a debacle.
Yep.
Right? So there's a couple of, first day was a debacle. Second day, people said, wow, it looks a little better. Now it's all dry.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have residents who are concerned because the streets here and their driveway, which used to be here, is now 3/8, and they plow.
Okay.
Or they do whatever with their driveways. Also, water's retaining. And it's great summer, 80 degrees, the water's disappearing. But November, the water's not going to disappear. So now they're afraid they're going to have ice dams at the end of their driveway.
Okay.
And also, I noticed with the manhole covers, they take plastic and they put it over the manhole covers and they come back, rip the plastic off, and it cleans it nice. But the manhole covers are now speed humps, or they're self-contained potholes now in the roads because they're 3/8 higher and the tires are hitting in the. Anybody that's a manhole in my section that you did is now feeling this every time they go over where they never felt that.
Okay.
So I'm very cautious on the next process of,
Okay.
and I'm only going because it went through my area. I don't know if anybody else has gotten any calls, complaints, but I couldn't have much in a parade without somebody saying, Dave, come by my driveway, come look at it. And I went and looked at it, and their driveway is even more than 3/8.
The microservicing, what was done on Pulaski?
Yes, it is.
I mean, Pulaski, I mean, Jason, I don't know if you drive it. Pulaski seems to be okay.
The only issue I have on Pulaski's, and maybe it's just because I just noticed it, is some of the manhole covers are sunken in.
Okay.
So you're going to have that. It's like hitting a small pothole. It's about three of them.
We'll take a close look at that and see if there's something we can do. I do know that it will settle out. I do know that it'll round off.
It's a very neat process, like it's a giant squeegee going down the street, just squeegeeing this stuff out, and it, again, I videoed the process, I think I shared it with some of you. The process is a very unique, very labor-intensive process. They're gonna need people on the truck.
Are we gonna have a full list like that for the microservicing as well? Yeah.
It's those two neighborhoods with Pulaski Street. I can put that together.
There's no more microsurfacing going
There's
on.
no more, that's it. Again,
Unless you decide that.
Unless you decide later on. that you wanna
Let
do
me ask
something.
you, where sidewalks and drainage on LeChamp Street, there's one that's like, I mean, I think of the clown from It, and like it's pretty big. Is that something that's encompassed with this? If you could take a look at it for me on LeChamp, you can't miss it. I don't have to explain it. You'll see it.
LaChance is one of those oddballs, and yes, I think we're going to take care of it. I don't think we could do that road without doing the sidewalks.
Yeah.
It's, the road already.
I mean, when I say, I mean,
It's already above the curbing.
you see it, you literally,
Main Street's the
and
same
it's
way.
more than a side, I mean, it's even, I mean, you can see it's huge drainage, and I definitely,
And I have a problem with either the water or the gas on LaChance Street, so it's going to be a little bit of thought before we get out there and do some work.
So, a question for you, two actually. One, on this list where it says not on original street list, and then it lists all the streets, there's a lot of them that are not on the original street list.
Okay.
Is that, I remember back in April when we looked at the list, we had noticed there were a couple that were not there, that we would have had to add them.
Again,
There's a lot.
there was a lot of adjustments made,
Yeah.
and a lot of driving around with Indus and with another company and with my own staff, and we did make a lot of changes to that
Okay.
that made sense. There
So,
was-
Okay.
and I understand that, Don.
Yeah.
You made changes,
yeah.
but not one of us up here knew about those changes, okay? And who's the first person the constituent calls?
You guys, I
Us.
understand.
And I hate to say this, but there was times, I know you and I had a conversation. Are you working on these areas? Not till after Labor Day. The following day, they were working on the areas. And there was no notice, no notes. There was an apology letter. It was in bright green. Who puts those letters on the doors?
My employees.
Because they missed sections.
Yeah.
Navarra Street, never once seen, they saw a no parking sign at the very bottom, but never once seen a green notice, or any notice whatsoever. It's a dead-end road, it's one way in, one way out. So I think the communication needs to improve with some of these processes, because if you got somebody trapped in their house for 2-3 hours that has to go somewhere, a doctor's appointment, a funeral, this has all happened. Why, just in my area, doctor's appointments, I know you tried to accommodate funerals, whatever else,
Right.
but now they're driving through wet asphalt. And I know if my kids, myself, or whoever come home with that all over my wheel wells, I'd be a little upset.
Again, it was setting up really quickly, and we did turn around and try to accommodate everybody. And there was plenty of people out there walking to help people out. I know of one couple that had a dialysis appointment. They were going to leave at 12. So we talked to them at 11. We talked to them at 12. We talked to them at 12:30. At 1:15, they finally left. So, we did everything I thought we could. We did send out as many code registers as we could. Have I notified everybody? No. I will tell you, Young and Woodside right now are being worked on this week. I've got no time to do a neighborhood meeting to turn around and do that. And I've had 4 neighborhood meetings at this point in time. I'm a one-man show. I am doing everything I
But you're not.
possibly
No.
can.
You're not. That's where you're wrong,
Okay.
okay? You have an assistant, you have secretaries, and you know what? I'd be more than happy to walk Woodside and put the flyers on the doors for you. You're not a one-man show, and you need to delegate. And you are the director.
Right.
And if you're gonna try to run this project by yourself,
Well,
it's gonna fail. Because this is a great thing that's happening in the community, but it's also upsetting a lot of the community. And I know either way, we're not gonna win. I understand that if we do it second shift, third shift, whatever, but if we notify the people who live in the area, they understand. And Phoenix Ave, I know you had a neighborhood meeting, okay? I was there, Mary Beth was there, right? 10 people showed up, and most of them from Wakefield Street, right? Phoenix Ave says they had no notice. I don't know if they even got the neighborhood notice.
They did.
I don't know, because most of Phoenix Ave is multifamily. They just put one on the door and one person grabbed it. You know, all the way up to where you guys finished with the Colden Place. Majority, 80% is multifamily. Right? So if you put one notice on a door and one tenant gets it and not the other, that becomes a problem, right? And we've been fielding it. I know I've been fielding the calls. I don't have a problem fielding the calls, but I just want to be informed.
I mean, communication definitely does need to improve. There's no question about that. And we talked about that right from the beginning, that's a very important part of the whole process. I know that, and actually I think I saw Mr. Mazzullo come in. Yes, he and I spoke earlier today, and we talked about, should we have something on the website? Are there other ways that we can notify people? We absolutely have to let people know. And the changes that you've said that you have made, if you didn't let us know, we've talked to constituents when they've asked us, so that puts us in a very difficult position if you've changed your mind as to what you're going to do on a particular road. So that's not acceptable.
So when does Indus know, like, for instance, they're working on Woodside, Maple, and that area today?
Yeah.
When did they know they're going to be working on those streets? Are they shooting from the hip, or are they planning week to week? Because personally, there should be a Friday meeting every Friday morning.
We're doing it Thursday.
With everybody, whatever day it is, that everybody should be involved. An email should go out. You have Mr. Social Media right here that will advertise. I will advertise.
I feel like sometimes when I don't know, and they didn't see it on Facebook, I mean, not that I know everything, I definitely don't. I'm sure there's.
But if you don't know the construction,
but if I don't know the construction, kind of, and I don't think many people are going to get mad that we're going to fix their roads as long as we give them notice. Yes, some people might, but most people, 99.9%, are going to be happy that the roads are being fixed as long as they know, like you said, that it leave them for any reason, even just it doesn't for any reason. They don't want to be locked in their house. I just think as long as they know, so if you know Thursday or Friday before that it's going to be on a Monday, yeah, so it's only a couple days notice. That's still enough time to put out something on social media, put out a code red. To again, if it's my neighborhood too, me and Jay share a lot of the same streets. I don't have a problem going in and dropping off a flyer, putting it in the door, and saying, hey, we're fixing your road. Because it's not a bad reason to show up and say, hey, we're going to fix your road.
Okay. And I know we can go on with this, but we'll talk about the Colden Place.
Okay. You're welcome to attend 9 o'clock Thursday mornings, my office, and you can take notes.
And that's pretty much the standard of every Thursday?
That's every Thursday,
Okay.
yeah. And you also have to understand, this has only been in the process for 3 weeks, so the whole system, especially with Cardi, the whole process is just beginning now to settle in. We've got roads that are being reclaimed. We've got roads that constructions are being raised. We're going to be having roads that are going to get final paving, binder, and then excavated, and we're beginning to roll with that. Indus is 3 different processes, and they all have to be done by mid-October, or they can't do those.
So, after your Thursday meeting, who's involved in your meetings, first of all?
The 2 contractors. I'm bringing the gas company and the water company in this Thursday. Obviously, Councilor Messier. We had, I've got Elaine coming to this meeting as well, and that's pretty much it.
So who will report out of the
That's
meeting?
what I was just going to say.
Right.
Why don't you invite your secretary or whatever, and they can take the notes and get the notes to the town manager, who then can ultimately get that information out to everybody. I mean, there's got to be, and Don, this isn't, I'm not putting you on trial here, but this has been a very hectic week between the rain, the roads, and just not. And I said to Mary Beth, I said, I never received more calls in the last 3 weeks, I think in the last 2 years.
Well,
And it's just, and it's,
And Dave, in my defense, you guys haven't done anything in 10 years this big, so you're going to get fired.
But
it's not about
we
that,
need to
though.
communicate, and we need to make sure people know
Donna,
if
that's
we're
a
gonna
lot.
put them out.
we've done a $5 million bond, $2 million isn't that much difference.
So we need to make sure people understand, and code reds have gone out, I know that one went out for Wakefield Street in Phoenix, but the truth is, the whole town gets impacted because of cut-throughs, and
Yeah.
if somebody's going to work at the hospital, they're gonna come to
This is our
Wakefield
third,
Street.
this is our third road bond,
Okay.
Yes.
right, in the last 15 years. Less than that, 10.
This is actually something very good, and we don't want lack of communication, lack of organization to turn it into something that's not good. Because it is a very
And
good
while
thing
I
for
will
the town.
attend Thursday, but I think, similar to Chief Levine and town manager not do, a little update, like, this is what was discussed at the meeting. It doesn't have to be the entire transcript, but, this is what we're talking, these are the streets, these are the streets we talked about discussing, and that way, again, I'll be there and I'll take some notes, but it should be done in case I can't, any of us can't be there, we should all get an update of what's gonna happen for the next week, what came out of the meeting.
One of the issues is we have multiple, this project is not, we're doing one street at a time.
Correct.
We have multiple
Yeah.
Which is what we
streets.
wanted to do.
Which is right,
Right.
but that, you're right, that does affect the whole town. Affect, not impact. That does affect the whole town. People going different places. So when I get a call about, I brought my daughter to school the other day, and I didn't go Wakefield Street, thank God. My first call was to the manager saying, all right, traffic is really backed up here. Why did we do it on the first day of school? Which may be out of our control, maybe not, but I think those things need to be taken into consideration too, where and that's a big impact. So that's kind of like what I think what we're trying to say is you have the meeting and say, this is the week's progress. We're looking at doing these streets. And in West Warwick, there's a lot of off-street parking. My street alone, there's 10 cars, in 6 houses. So it's kind of like when you're set to go out and the people are on the street, people have left for work. There's nobody home, but there's also a car on the street. Now what do you do? But that's a question I have though, because it's bound to happen at some point. What happens when there's nobody home, there's a car on the street, and you're set to reclaim the road? What do we do? Like, what do you skip it or?
And this isn't even us trying to overmanage, because obviously you
Yeah, I
guys
don't
know
wanna manage.
when. No. But if you had sent us the email last week, I'm assuming one of us would have said, "Isn't that the first day? Doesn't schools? It maybe
it's
we might
not-
not know the time."
So for instance, Don, I had a conversation when they were doing the code in place on Phoenix Ave. I met a supervisor, I forgot his name, another gentleman, and the 2 salespeople trying to sell the big machine to the company. And I looked at all of them, I said, do you know there's a parade coming down this street this week? And they looked at me and said, no. If we did, we'd go somewhere else. We would have went somewhere else for the weekend, for the week. So there's no communication. Now, you might not know there's a parade, but your department definitely does because
Cleaning the route.
you've been cleaning the route, right? And I don't know how you want to know there's a parade there. And considering that I asked 3.5 weeks ago, are we going to be street sweeping, maintaining, and doing whatever for the parade? And you said yes. So Indus came in, did Wakefield Street, Phoenix Ave, and not so much we're marching on it. My shoes I don't care about. But you had girls wearing $300 dresses with white walking across oil by the end of the week. And because that's the last coat that is the actual last coat of, besides the finish coat, is they just spray oil all the way down the street. I just want to say, that's a little disheartening when somebody goes out and spends $300 for one disaster, walking through oil for the whole thing. Those are things that, that we've heard all weekend. It's a very busy weekend around here. I know I was down at the grounds all weekend from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, every day, and it was not enjoyable because you've got somebody asking you a question about this, and this, or even attacking you. And how come you don't know about it? And it's embarrassing when you can't tell somebody when your road's getting done, but I can't tell you when.
Okay.
I can't even give you a week notice.
So back to my question though, if that's if you're looking to do a street, could be whatever street, and there are cars still on the street, and people aren't around to move them, what's the protocol?
Well, for the microsurfacing, one of the complaints we had, I believe it was on Summit.
5 cars.
5 cars were parked on the street and they just went around.
They didn't get noticed.
They didn't.
Well, but regardless, so, I mean, if that's the case, so what happens? It could be somebody's on, it's probably not intentional, but the fact is, we're in this
second part of
situation.
it is the police did notify, we knock on doors, and we were able to get all the vehicles moved. I don't think we have.
We knocked on doors too. I even moved the car for somebody.
But what if you can't though, and the car is still, say somebody's on vacation, what do we do? Like, do you skip the road and go to the next?
Again,
Is
if
that-
we've given notice and we put the parking signs up and they still park there, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I also understand those 5 cars on Summit Street, there was a no parking sign right next to each
But
one.
Don, think about what you did. You put no parking in a Portuguese neighborhood, which everybody thought it was because of Labor Day.
Yeah, which
park
does
in
happen
those
every
streets.
single year, yeah.
So everybody in that area down Phoenix Ave,
Yeah.
Summit, that's areas that, and even some called me and said, why are there no parking signs on my street? Because they don't usually do it for Labor Day. And I said, I don't know. And then the next day, they're sealed it. There was no notification. So I saw the same picture. I know some of you might have seen the pictures
One
of-
where it goes
around the car.
It looked like a meme. I mean, it looked like a meme.
And I'll tell you what, I'm glad they didn't tow the car because the residents there were not properly notified. They put the no parking, but they didn't know what the no parking was for, and they were actually confused because of Labor Day weekend. The police department had the no parking up and down Main, Phoenix, and Betez, all on, was it Wednesday? I think it was up, Thursday? It was up very early this year, and that's what everybody thought. And then Betez also had a gas line being installed that week. You know, Don and I took a ride down there. We had to go and ask what was going on. Nobody knew where the permit came from, nothing. So there's just no communication.
All right, so back to my question now. If there's a car, all right, I'm going to use me, all right, for an example. All right,
Properly notified tow.
all right, okay, but again, I'm going to say I wasn't properly
Don't touch it.
notified. I get home, my car's not there. What happens?
If we tow it and they weren't properly notified, I think the town should pay for it. Simple.
But again, so if the car is there, there's nobody home, you can't ask anybody else to move it, it's going to get towed. Or are we going to go around it?
Well, you can't go around.
Can't go around.
All right, so we're going to remove the car.
We're gonna move it.
Okay, that's my question.
So I think we've all made it clear, communication needs to improve drastically. I will say that there was a meeting this morning at 8 o'clock up on Wakefield Street to talk about what happened with the schools in particular on Friday. I mean, we had kindergartners getting home at 6 o'clock, and that's just not acceptable. So Art Baker from Indus was there, a couple of his guys were there, Kenny Townsend and Chris Mann from the schools, Colonel Levine was there, Mark was there. So they know what they're gonna do, because you guys told me that on the 15th, you're actually you told me what you're gonna do today, which is what happened, the lower end of Wakefield, but we need to let people know that's gonna happen. We need to let people know that on the 15th, they're gonna come and they're gonna do the final code, and what that entails, whether that's a code red, how that gets out, but it needs to happen.
Not everybody's on code red.
Well,
And I don't get the call. I'm on code red. I don't get the call.
I didn't get it either, to be honest with you.
We'll
So-
fly the neighborhood again a second time.
Well,
We'll
well,
code red.
But it's
Before
not-
you do that, let's think about how to best use our resources. So I think we need
We'll
to have that.
collectively take
Yes,
Okay.
We've
Yes.
also got message boards that we
but
didn't
it's,
have
it,
first going.
again, and the code reds pinpointed aren't necessarily, because if you have kids that come into St. Joe's that live on the other side of town, everybody needs to know what's gonna happen. And yes, there's gonna be a detour up Wilson, so people understand it's gonna be up Wilson and come out to Providence Street. Very, very specific, what's gonna happen. Expect
And
delays.
Don, trust me, I put on social media this month, stay off Wakefield all you can. I caught a lot of negative and I caught a lot of positive. And I took the heat. And I don't care. I can be the big boy and say, thank you, and I give my opinions and whatever it is. I don't have a problem advertising and saying, hey, just to give you a heads up, paving. I knew that you got the sewer department, you got gas company, all working in the same area. So, you know, and construction always brings
Yep.
a lot of people to get upset in the beginning, but ultimately, when in the end, it looks good, it comes out good, and there's usually no complaints. We understand that.
And the Betez gas leak, we gave them a permit late June, early July. We can't control their construction season. They just happen to show up the same day that we show
And
up.
that is one,
Four holes all the way down.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that is something that, and it's probably a good idea to mention that tonight, that part of the timing was, and yes, it would have been wonderful to do it while schools were out, however, the funding was not available until mid-August.
August 3rd, and by the time they mobilized, it was
So-
August 10th.
No, we
There's
understand.
definite room for improvement, and I don't think you can over-communicate. I mean, I think we need to just do a really good job. I know that you said you're gonna be on New London Turnpike, there's a school there, we talked about that this morning.
Right.
Greenbush School is there, let's figure out how we're gonna impact them, how buses might route, but work with Kenny and Chris to take care of that.
Okay.
But I have one more question, and it's just because I don't know. I met with Freddie today on a street that had previously been paved with the last road bond or with the water company. That was about 5 years ago. And when that was paved, there was a crown that was placed in the middle. You could see, where it kind of comes down. And when that happened, it kind of moved as the water comes down and it rains. It pushes it and redirects it into a different direction, which happened to be these people's yards.
Okay.
So when the roads are finally when the roads are finally being done, are we paying attention to if we need to add a berm or maybe look at it and say, all right, what is going to be the impact? Because it is that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with rainwater
I'll
and
use Phoenix as an example. Phoenix had a very high crown in that road, and we actually took material out of Phoenix so that it's now a much smoother grade on that. So I think we've solved that problem. And we will turn around and do all the handwork and everything else. If it requires berms, we'll be putting berms in.
but is that something like as you're going over street bikes? Because I know you're out in the field.
Yep.
So if you're going over, pick a small street.
Turn.
All right, turn and drive. It's done, right? You're going.
Paved.
Well, just before it's finished, are you actually going out and kind of doing another assessment on the job that was done
Oh,
and
absolutely.
looking at it as all right? Here's a potential hazard going forward.
Yeah, well, I'll go through it. Well, I'll go through that. That's really Kylie's contract, but I collect every slip coming off those trucks, so I have the exact tonnage that they're putting down. I walked every one of those streets and measured every square yard for the reclaimer. So I've got the 12 roads that we're working on. I have all of those dimensions, and I'm ready to process. When they give me an invoice, I'm ready to process that. I'll have that data. Tomorrow, I plan on counting the structures because we're actually going to get an advantage on the structures because there were a lot of structures they didn't lower, mainly the drains on the side. When we did our surveys, we counted those in. So a structure cost should drop down maybe by a third to 2/3.
But I mean, even though you have this data though, which is great, but are you actually going out there and looking at the road?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And in that neighborhood, there are two concrete inlets that weren't caught on the original survey, and we're already making plans to remove those and put new concrete inlets in. It'll be a change to the contract, but it's one of those, you look at it, there's no question you need to do that. Plus any complaints that we're getting, and Edwards Court, we got a call today, they dinged a wall back there. So I gotta go look at that tomorrow, find out if there was any real damage to that.
Okay.
So again, a lot of that is happening right now. I go to every one of these sites every day, or I try to go to these sites every day. I didn't go to Wakefield, other than this morning, so.
You just mentioned invoices. I have a concern about, I know you're keeping every slip. We need a tally. We need to make sure we know what we spent, how we spent it, where we are. And I mean, I think we need to let the council know where we stand as far as that goes too,
Okay.
what the fiscal impact is.
Can
Is
you,
this a monthly report that like when the slips
Oh,
come in,
it's-
are they just filed them? Do you file them, or is that something that somebody puts in a report?
They should be doing invoicing. They're not.
They haven't invoiced us yet. We've gotten one invoice from Indus, and I have a copy for you. There was one mistake on that, and that was to do with police detail. They charged us for the car. So when the police did the invoice up, they sent it to Indus, who then turns around and sent it back to us. They had the car in there. I subtracted the car. I guess we can't do that, so somehow there's a credit that's going to come on the next bill. We haven't done the next bill yet.
So, all right, when the bill comes in, bill comes to you.
Yes.
Okay. At that point, do you sit with Kristen and go over the bill, and then because you're ultimately going to be paying this?
I'll go over all of the numbers.
What's the plan?
So just so you're aware, we've only received one invoice so far. We do have a spreadsheet that was established during the last bond that we'll be using.
Is that by road, the invoice, or is that by?
It depends on the vendor, so like, we'll get a big invoice for a frame of time for crack sealing. So that will have a bigger list of roads. However, like Cardi's will be different. They're gonna be doing it sometimes by road or by neighborhood. So, they're just they're close to finishing their first neighborhood. They need to do their final paving. And then we'll get our first invoice from them. So right now, there's nothing invoice-wise put into spreadsheets to
However,
share
we
that
are-
we haven't had it yet, but
However,
we
we're
will have that.
monitoring material, so we are
Right.
monitoring material, and we're comfortable that what we originally projected is what's being used.
Yes.
Okay,
And as you mentioned before, we think we're ahead of the game in those. So
okay.
we're using less than anticipated. But again, Kristen cleared out the previous spreadsheet that we had. We're going to start putting that together that we can share on a frequent basis. We'll figure out the best way on how to input that and how it's stored. It's a little beyond my IT knowledge, but we'll have that available for periodic review.
before I forget, Don, can you mark down 2 spots to check out for me? One is 132 Patuxent Terrace. They've had some potential drainage issues over the years, but
The one right on that crest.
it's the one that goes from Moretti. Like it's Moretti, it goes into Patuxent Terrace.
Okay.
Actually, Moretti kind of crosses over technically. They've had issues in the past, but they say it's a little higher now since it was done. And another one, I sent you the email. I don't have the address in front of me. It's also Patuxent Terrace, and they've had some drainage issues. There's the one drain in the road, and I know we've talked about it before, and I sent an email to you and Freddie about it, and I don't have the exact number, but it's on the odd side of the road, headed back towards West Warwick Avenue. And that one is, I'll forward you the email again tomorrow.
Okay,
But
thanks.
that one, there's a drain that we've talked about potentially upgrading over the years, and I think there's just not a lot of room. I know you guys can occasionally come there and empty this small drain, but it doesn't go anywhere.
We did a new drain up there, and it seems to be working really good. Every time we've gone up there, it's fine.
Yeah.
I know the neighbor complains because it's not instantaneous, but it's a leach and catch basin.
Yeah, it's that.
And the problem is the groundwater is only 18 inches below the road.
Yeah, it's been an issue over there for yeah.
So,
Thank you.
So anyway, I've got a copy of the invoice that we've gotten, if you want to take a look at it. We have there's only 16 line items on the Indus contract, and there's 13 line items on the Cardi. So I'm only tracking 29
You showed me
items.
that when I was in your office
Yeah.
3 weeks ago, yes.
These right here, again, from the asphalt, and to date, we've gone through, sorry, 2,789.57 tons of asphalt for the binder. And I calculated that out, it's about 144,000. And then 300,000 and 144,000 for the reclaim. And to date, that's really all Cardi has done. They're just now beginning to get to the structures. So I expect a invoice from them probably next week, and then we can turn around and do however you want to track that. But we're doing really well on these line items, so I'm not overly concerned that that's going to be a problem.
So this one is Indus.
That's Indus.
Yeah.
Last but not least, cold in place.
Just the parts. Now, when I measured all of these 12 roads, the first 12 that we're working on, and I compared it to the numbers that we had for those particular roads, we were about 5 to 10%, depending on the road, conservative. So there's actually an underestimation on that. So that is in itself is going to help with asphalt. It's going to help with the reclaim. We're not paying off the estimate, we're paying off the actual measurements. And again, understand, we did the measurements using Google Earth. And, you know, they were, again, as good as we could have done.
So on the spreadsheet that you're developing, Mark and Kristen,
Is developed.
well, but it has a job number. And so when I look at this, I have no idea what road that is. I have no idea what area of town in this work done. So if we could somehow have an identifier, because I assume the list is of streets.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think what'll be a little different, and it'll take a little bit of growing pains to work out the logistics, is our previous bond was all reclamation. So it was very clear cut if the road was done or it was not done. This time we have a few different applications happening, especially crack sealing, which.
So back in March,
So if
actually,
we
there was
copy-
there was a spreadsheet that Don actually created, and it's changed based on what we're hearing.
A little bit, yes.
So,
But it had by street, it
Right.
had what process it was going to be, it had a
Right, so that'll be
estimated
merged
cost.
into
Yes.
the spreadsheet
Okay.
that
So-
will have.
It was easy to follow.
pricing-
so,
Yes.
let- so
Pricing and tracking
and I think you can easily fix that by adding another tab down bottom, copy, paste, add a tab, and just change to, if it's reclaim, change that column to crack seal. Add another, so then you can just rename them on the bottom, your 4 tabs, reclaim, crack seal, micro surfacing, and then we can click on the tabs and go to those roads.
I think you'll have two. I think you're gonna have 2 spreadsheets, one for Indus and one for.
And that's fine, as far as the finances go, that's all I want to see and see what's getting done. In a time frame, that's all.
So
Now, I know the last process that I've seen through Indus, I know some have had reclaims and whatever. I think all of us know what a reclaim is basically rip it all out, grading, refresh, binder. But the cold in place, I don't know if anybody has seen that process. And Don, I know you and I walked Phoenix Ave and whatever. It's a pretty intense process of, again, 12 to 18 people on this machine and on these trucks and doing whatever. And there's 4 trucks, there's a couple machines in the front, 4 vehicles attached together, 2, was it water, oil, and
water, oil, they call it foam, but it's
some sort of foam, which is all eco-safe
and cement.
and cement dust. And when it goes down the road, I know Phoenix Ave is completely done, that's what they're doing on Wakefield Street now, is they're reclaiming, it goes inside the machine, dump truck, it gets reclaimed right there, everybody's standing behind, picking up any big product that's coming out the back end, nice and smooth, they hand shovel, if they take out a big piece of asphalt, they hand shovel it, put it in, and then 2 rollers are behind it, one giant vibratory roller, and one with 3 wheels on it. What type of roller is that on?
It's just a finish roll, it's to get closer to the curb and that stuff.
Okay, and that process, and a lot of people don't realize, and so anybody who's watching or listening, or anybody here, that's not the finished product, and that's why I got a lot of calls. I know Jay has referred a couple of people to me. That is not the finished product. The finished product will be later on, like Wakefield Street on the 15th, or Phoenix Ave is probably going to be around the same time, where they put 1.5 inch of grade A asphalt on top, steamrolled, so it's be brand new, fresh. The only thing that I am concerned about, and I was talking to Indus about this, was when we do a reclaim, they cut all the driveways nice, right? And they, for the most part. The part I'm concerned with this 1.5 inch over the top is being told it's feathered in. And to me, having painters in my family, feathering is painting. I don't see feathering asphalt in. I know you can bring it in and spread it out, but feathering it perfect to a driveway that's not cut. And I understand concrete and asphalt, but asphalt driveways, I just don't want to end up with this. You're going to end up with anybody who plows, or especially in my area, I know a lot of people plow their driveway, and they either do it with a tractor, and I just don't want to see it ripped up in December.
One of the line items on that is handwork. And handwork will be to just any of the driveways. I mean, we're trying not to use any handwork,
Yeah.
but if we need to use handwork, we'll go in and do handwork.
Yeah, because Indus told me they're going to try to feather it in. I'm just concerned. I just don't want, first snow, asphalt sitting in the piles of snow.
Ideally, Indus will be an inch and a half below the driveway, and then Cardi's actually putting down the top, the inch and a half, and they'll be the ones that will do the attachment into the driveway.
So is the first layer, because I'm not a paving guy, so the first layer is on. What attaches the top layer to that first layer?
They'll put down what's called tack, and it won't separate.
Okay.
Yeah,
glue.
It's a base coat now.
The
The
truck
glue,
just
right?
comes by and sprays it. It's kind of
Yeah, that stuff you don't want to drive in.
and that's what because that's the finish. Even with this now, after they compact it, the truck comes down with oil and I keep saying oil, but it's eco-friendly. It's sprayed on the street, and then that's it. And then they let that dry settle in, and then when they come in to do the final coat, they'll do the same thing. The tag will go down and then asphalt it through.
I have two more quick questions. I know you've been up here a long time. When you say that the department is going to come in and do handwork, is that, because we're going to get these questions, is that going to be done by street? So for example, with, I can pick number one, Exchange Street. If there's an issue on Exchange Street, is that going to be dealt with now? Get Exchange Street done with all the handwork?
Once they get all of the top down, then we'll do the handwork afterwards, and it'll be done street by street.
All right, and that way that's off. We'll check that street off the list, move on to the next.
Right.
And I know you mentioned about the turnpike.
Yes.
Is that, and I totally missed that, I'm sorry. That's going to be soon, right?
That's going to be soon, in the next 2 weeks, they'll be out of the turnpike.
Okay, and we're going from the Coventry line all the way down to,
Claire.
okay.
I actually thought they said next week, but
It might be next week.
yeah, I think they said next week because I let
Again,
them
I
know
have
that
their meeting
Greenbush is
Thursday.
there. Yes, yep.
So,
Okay.
but they'll have the lower structures. I mean, it'll be 2 weeks before. I think they get the whole
Okay.
train out there. So,
Yep.
I'm just thinking of all the detours that are going to have to take place.
again, one of the many things that I have to do, when you look at the roadway measurements that I just handed out to you, right now for binder, we've used $27.90. It's at $65 a ton. To date, we spent $181,000 on binder. We have a total of $16,150, and that is on the bid tab that you have gotten. And so that's where basically that comes up. Again, this is Cardi's contract. When you go and look at the total square yards, it comes up to 36,046 that we've done to date, and that comes up to 144,181. So today for the Cardi right now, it's $325,000 worth of work. They have almost a $3 million contract. So they've done about 1/10 of the work that they plan on doing.
And Don, you said police details are being billed to the company.
They have to be billed to the
And
company.
who's keeping track of that?
Well, I believe the police department's keeping track of all of their invoices and stuff. And it comes through the contractor, and we pay it on as a contractor.
Now, what happens, like, I know we ran into a situation where we didn't have enough police officers for the detail, specifically the Phoenix Ave area. And Indus had to use their guys.
Well, they hired a flagging company. It's a little more expensive, believe it or not, than the police details. I don't even want to go into that, but it's a little bit more expensive.
I want to tell you right now, they're not good.
Right.
That third-party flagging company needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
Because when they throw cones on the bottom of Aberdeen
Yeah.
and have everybody come down to the bottom of Aberdeen to try to do a U-turn on a freshly microsurfaced road,
Okay.
it does not work. I mean, that discussion needs to happen. And I understand our police department with members out and whatever, staffing issues. And I understand sometimes it's hard to get people to come in, especially when they've already put in 16 hours. So, when we have those situations, I mean, maybe we can look at other options, that we can utilize somebody else.
So that was actually part of the discussion this morning on Wakefield Street, and how Wilson Street was being used. And Colonel Levine made a good point. West Warwick guys know the roads. This third-party flagging company has no idea what road, where it leads to, how it goes, and you
Supposedly told them to go somewhere else, figure it out yourself.
well, yeah.
How do I get through? Figure it out.
Go ahead, Elliot.
Just really quickly, I made a directive to my supervisors on both the midnight to 8 shift as well as the day patrol shift to address any issues that they see. Because as Councilwoman Williamson mentioned, our officers know the roads and the potential bottlenecks and the cut-throughs that people are going to use, and we want to avoid the congested neighborhoods as much as possible while still providing a safe flow of traffic. So the midnight to 8 supervisors or an officer, as well as the day shift supervisor and officers, are going to visit anywhere that Indus or Cardi are working every single morning to make sure that it's safe and it's not going to lead to congestion. That's something we spoke about. We don't expect it to be an issue. Yeah, we do have a staffing shortage, and we are unfortunately have to hire some out of town officers to cover those details. But we'll have West Warwick officers address any issues like the one this morning. A very simple solution to that was have an officer at the end of Prospect Hill Avenue to stop traffic on Providence Street to allow a good flow. So that would have been a simple fix this morning. We would have seen that had it been a West Warwick officer that was there. So we've made those adjustments to address those issues.
And it all comes down to that same word that we started, communication.
That's right.
I think everything can be solved with communication.
So Don, does anybody have any other questions for Don? I know we've been kind of drilling up here for an hour and a half. So.
Well, again, I'm fine. I'll stand up here as long as you want, but I gave you this by email. This was the original list, and I put on the end of this pretty much the changes that we've made and why we had to make them. And hopefully, and unfortunately, I don't have a color copy. I've only got mine in color, but you got it as an email. So Woodbine was supposed to be a reclaim. We went to Colden Place, and we did that because
Woodbine?
Woodbine, yeah.
That was a microscope. The same one did 3/4.
No, it was reclaimed originally, and we went to Colden Place because
Woodbine is not a Colden Place. You did microsurface. I drive the road every day.
have I got the road wrong?
Do you have 100, maybe 60
I'm
feet?
sorry, Woodside Avenue.
Okay, Woodside.
Woodside Avenue, my bad. It's CIP, it was reclaimed, and the reason we changed that and Young was because Indus lost all of the roads in the Tanglewood neighborhood. When we went out and did the thickness out on those neighborhoods, the thickness was around 1 inch to 1.5 inches. They need 3 inches for that process to work.
So wait a minute. Now you really got me confused.
Okay.
They were originally reclaims, but because they lost contract work up there, we're going to move it to
Evened it out a
instead of
little
car.
bit. I did. I evened it out, and I talked with both contractors, and because we had gas and water issues there with a heavy vibratory roller, we felt we could do a better job with the vibration there. We're not just doing this willy-nilly. I mean, there's a lot of thought that's going into these things. So we did make those changes because we'll get them to do that work.
But cold in place is a little cheaper.
It's a little cheaper and it's a
But-
lot less impact.
Let me ask you a question, because it was brought to me before the meeting. You have a stop line, and I think another couple of, maybe 100 feet, maybe a little less. The Coventry line is there. We're stopping and leaving a section of Woodside. It says stop. I don't know if that's your stop line,
Okay?
right? But you have a little section left of Woodside Avenue. And if you're saving
If that
with cold
is,
in place, why are we going right to the Coventry line?
if we've missed that town line, let me know.
Well, you missed Woodside Town Line
Okay.
by 100 feet, I think.
By 100 feet? Okay.
You know.
There's no sign up there that says, this is all West Warwick, so between me and the contractor, we both missed it. Again, we should have had a police officer out there that would have taken care of us.
Well, you can, it's very easy to see the town line, Don. Just go to the clerk's office, ask them the last house on the line. They can get you actually the voter list, they can get you the residential list. The tax assessor's sitting right there. He can tell you the last house on Woodside Avenue is the Coventry line. I know it. I walk it. I campaign on it. Randy knows it. He walks it. He campaigns on it. He lives right around it. So, I mean, there's plenty of people. And again, it goes back to, you know, you've got your resources right here in town hall. You've got Sal. You've got Sarah's office. You've got council people. They could tell. We could probably. And I know, Don, you're not from here. Okay, I understand that. But utilize the people that know the town.
Let me ask you again about the reclaim, just to clarify. You said, obviously, a lot of them, you see the lines of the road. When it's more of like a pothole, I mean, they're not huge potholes, but are they still able to be done?
He told you earlier.
No, but just to clarify, that what is it that what do they use? When you said they do it a second time, so are they using that same, like, are they still using that same material, or they're doing something,
Okay.
they're not more of a patch?
The way the process works, if it's just cracks, we use crack sealing. If it's cracks and it has a couple of alligator patches
Yes.
or a big pothole,
Yeah.
we do the patches.
Cold
We
patch,
do the
okay.
we do the crack sealing, and then we do the full depth patch.
But it's a different material for those particular things.
When we do the full depth patch, you go down 12 inches, you take out everything, you put new dense braided material in, you compact it,
Okay.
you put asphalt in,
Okay.
you put top in, and then you crack seal around it, and that should last until you actually do a mill and overlay for something
Are the
else.
ones are the roads we did this year? Is that going to be done this year, or some of those that we did the reclaim?
We'll start them this year.
So some of them still might be started this year and not finished till next year.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions from Don, from the council?
Wait a minute,
Well,
sorry. So
No.
we'll start roads this year and not finish them this year?
We may
Take-
not get all the full depth patches done this year, that's correct.
patch.
Those are small
Patch.
sections.
Just the
Well,
patches,
yeah.
but you're not gonna start a street,
No, I'm
do a
going,
half and then see in the spring, we're not doing that.
no,
Okay.
I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that, and Cardi's gonna be the one that we have to keep an eye on. I'm not gonna let them overextend so that they cannot come in and do the final
Right.
coat.
Yeah, because if somebody sees the road half done, you go, well, now
Well,
we're going to see you in
we
6 months.
talked about that, especially in the Tanglewood area. We don't want to have things, rip out all sorts of curbing and then have holes for the winter. That is not acceptable.
And by the way, I was in Tanglewood today marking a lot of the, I don't want my curb taken out.
Okay, good.
They actually put up little signs,
All right.
you know.
Well, that's
on
what
the
you asked them
sticks
to
and
do,
stuff,
yeah.
so, pretty cute.
And when you have reclaim, but you have gas on this list, that's going to be the gas company that's going to be responsible for
Right, for
curb
example.
to curb,
They
right?
had, Betez, am I saying that right?
Betez, yeah.
Betez.
Well, it could be
It
Patty's.
used to be Batty in the old days. Yeah.
That was a road that they had planned on doing, and we gave them the permit and everything else. That is gonna be taken care of by them, so.
So, and Don, I looked at that the other day, they didn't dig up the entire road, so if that's gonna be done by them, there's still a quarter of it that's not gonna be done by them, which is actually the worst section of the road. So would it be in our best interest to say, hey, this is what it was gonna cost you, or work with them and say, this was gonna cost you $80,000 to do curb to curb from here to here? Shouldn't we try to get the funds from them and then do the road properly from end to end?
I've done that every community I've ever been in, but I've been told here that they can't because of the PUC. So I plan on talking to them Thursday. I plan on bringing that
That's a
up
discussion.
again.
Will you work together?
Yeah.
You know, if they have a contract with somebody who's going to do that road, maybe are we entitled to jump on that contract?
Well, we have a
And-
contract to do that. We could do that without.
So let's just say it's the Amber that has that contract to do Bethesda Street from curb to curb from the the PUC, the gas company,
Right.
National Grid. And then there's 75 feet left. Why can't we ask them to give us a price on that if it's within spec of our bid? Because the Amber was very close in the bidding process with us, if I remember
They came
correctly.
in third, I believe.
And I'm just saying, I don't even know who they're going to use. But if they're going to use that road, why don't we just finish it up with that same contractor? So they're out of our way. We're not interfering with anything. Why do 3/4? Bring the big trucks in again, drive all over them, scuff them all up, and then finish the quarter.
That's one of the talking points for this Thursday meeting.
Let's see.
We'll have to look into see how that works in procurement rules, so we're not violating our own.
Yeah, I don't know if it is,
We'll
but
look into that.
like I said, if they could, like Gosling Court, by the way, is not my road. They put the gas line from the house. There's only one house, 6-family house on it, and that was on the list for a reclaim redo. But they dug from house to Summit Avenue. The question I have is, they're going to go in. There's not much to reclaim and then lay over. It's not going to last. So why don't we work with them and do the road properly? And if it costs us a little bit, at least we got it done right, right? Instead of, we're going to do an overlay on, and if anybody ever seen Gosling Court, you can't run a plow up it without busting the blades. I mean, that's one of the roads that have been, I think 3 directors now have asked that road to get done. And, and you've seen the disarray it's in, that we do it right. But and maybe we don't even hold them accountable for curb to curb. Maybe we just do it. But again, work with them, see if we can get some money from it, since they dug it up and they were supposed to do curb to curb anyway. Just want to do it right.
Again, that's the discussion for Thursday. That's all I've got, unless you got questions.
Thank you, Don. I know it's been a long time.
Thank you.
It's been a little.
I've been working my ass off, so.
I'm not going to deny that. I was with you for a full day, and you stopped to go get lunch. I stopped. You and I moved cars. We knocked on doors. I'm not arguing that, Don. It's just the communication. I'm not saying the last thing I'm going to say is Don's been sitting in his office doing nothing, because I know it's just you got to. I said at the beginning, you got to utilize the people around you. You have an assistant, you have secretary, you have foreman. Utilize it, to help you get through this process.
They also have the local knowledge that you don't have, and that could be very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don. Remember where we were, Sarah?
New business 06, town council permits the town manager and solicitor to respond to the town's vote regarding pending opioid litigation settlements of individual lawsuits based upon the recommendations of Eva Mancuso Esquire, our legal representative.
Mr. Solicitor?
Thank you. I spoke to the town manager about this, and it's been coming up in our meetings, but also with the potential of settlements coming out of both the Mallinckrodt bankruptcy and some other matters. I'm going to have to act very quickly, and we're looking for the council's approval to basically let the town manager and the town solicitor communicate directly with Eva Mancuso as to what her recommendation is. Because if we can't do it like that, because these dates are going to start coming very quickly, and they change almost on a daily basis, we're gonna have to keep this on town council agenda, and then, and there may have to be emergency meetings. So for example, on August 26th, they sent us a letter stating that everything was gonna be done by September 10th, and then the deadline for the consortium to submit its master ballot indicating to all of our clients is September 10th at 4 p.m. prevailing Eastern time. However, if you don't receive your voting decision out before September 8th, that opioid will cast your vote following in accordance with our and PEC's recommendations. So instead of keeping this on the calendar, and again, there's a lot of issues that are still pending. We don't know if the Attorney General of the state of Rhode Island is going to sign on to this or not sign on to it. There are a lot of communities involved. We're going to give you a further breakdown of the information that we received on a conference call that was about 2 weeks ago, but all this, the information's kind of fluctuating about how much money the towns may potentially receive with the cities, because one of the biggest issues is the Attorney General. But as far as dealing with the National Opioid Consortium, we just need some direction to basically allow us to approve what Eva Marie Mancuso's recommendations are, instead of bringing it to the full council on a, maybe a weekly basis. At some point, it may even become daily.
So we're going.
Would this be something, if you basically are representing the council, you're going forward?
Right. If
would
you
you
recall, about 2 years ago, Eva Marie Mancuso came in with probably 3 of the major law firms that are involved in the consortium.
More than that, 'cause I don't even think Mary Beth was
So-
there.
so-
Yeah, it was a while
so
ago.
I want the Reader's Digest version of what,
The bottom
literally what it's
the bottom
about.
line is we have been accepting as a whole whatever her recommendation has been based upon the consortium's recommendation in dealing with not only these bankruptcy matters, but also these huge class action lawsuits.
And we didn't pay anything.
So the town ultimately, the council, previous to you, came in, the attorneys came in, asked us if we would like to be part of the class action lawsuit. The council at that time voted 5-0 to obviously jump on this class action lawsuit. At this time, there was no fees out of our pocket. Obviously, it's through settlement fees only, and so that's why we agreed upon that. It's obviously a crisis here in this country.
Right, and most if not all of the money that's going to come in is going to be going right to the opioid epidemic. So a lot of it's going to be utilized by our first responders, police, fire, rescue. So there's not going to be a lot of money left over.
It could be for trainings,
Right,
doing whatever.
there's not going to be a lot of left money. It's not going to go to the capital. It's not going to be used for pension. It's not going to
Is
be
it-
used for
is
salaries
it-
and benefits.
I know we have a behavioral health navigator now. Is this something that, I know this is a long way off, is something that could be used for that? Can you add a second one?
That's what it's
Something
for.
that's- Use a second one like that? Okay.
Yeah.
Which
So
is pretty
The
good.
whole bottom line is that as all the 39 cities and towns, there's probably, I want to say 35 that are involved. And they're all screaming for the same dollars, but the dollars can only be used to relate to opioid issues. So one of the arguments was the bigger cities are going to get more money, more populated. Well, that's only because per capita they have more incidents of opioid abuse and addiction and things of that nature. So,
Unfortunately, I think West Warwick is quite high on that list, and that's the
Yeah, very
chief.
high.
right. But again, I'm sorry, but like
Yeah.
I'm saying, we just need some direction.
So, okay, before, again, Reader's Digest version, the information that was sent out, and it talks about E.W. Audette and Sons and respondents Immunex Holdings, Greenwich Holdings. That, they didn't make,
That's got nothing to do with this.
that made no sense to me. Yeah,
Well, I don't know why
okay.
that was put on the.
Okay, it's not on the, no, it's not on this agenda.
Oh,
All
no,
right, okay,
that's got
okay.
nothing to do with.
That's a separate one,
Right,
okay,
that's a different lawsuit.
okay.
Can you just give us
Yeah.
report? Would you be giving us reports through email? Would it be
Oh,
like?
absolutely.
But would it
I
be
don't think,
like?
I think it doesn't matter, that we should have it on the agenda anyway, but that.
Well, that's
that
what my
how you
question is.
have
Would we
you
be
act
getting like
is
a monthly
different thing.
report on the agenda?
Right, but what I
Right.
can't give you is they don't give us, you have 30 days to do this. Sometimes they only give us 2 days. There's not enough time to post it.
No,
Well,
so,
what
so
if
the
we had it
nine,
as what if we had it as a running line item on our agenda?
you can.
Right.
So
That's
what
what he said.
they're looking for
his ability to act.
Yes,
I
yes,
get
I agree-
that.
I agree with that.
But as far as
But
a report,
we still want it
we can
on
certainly
the
do
Yeah,
a
we could do
report.
both things. Have
Yes,
one on the agenda
absolutely.
so that way we could update the public
That's
and
right.
us,
Right.
and then one where you
But-
can act.
But again, there's a lot of information that's still in flux, so
I get
we
that.
we can only give you parameters
I just-
of
right, yeah.
what we're being told.
I understand.
Right. That's
So do we
understandable.
have any idea of what the dollars are? None. I mean, Farmer was what, $9 billion that
Purdue Pharma was
Yeah.
4.5 billion,
Yeah.
and I wrote down quickly, 15 states accepted it, 8 states did not accept it because their attorney general said no. And there is a beef right now between the consortium and Peter Narona's office, because the state wants to be able to take it and divvy up the money versus having the consortium divvy it up. So there's a distinct turf battle going on. So we can provide you with the parameters, give you an idea of what we're being told, but there's really no definitive information
Now, not every community, in each city and town, I know they went from, I don't know how many approved in Rhode Island, and not every city and town obviously approves this,
there.
right?
No, but I would say more than 90%, more than 90%.
So at that point, I mean, obviously, you don't know how it's gonna work out, but if the state got the money, they would determine where it goes, so it might not make a difference, right? You could.
I can't
you don't
comment,
know.
I can't comment on that
Anything else?
because, yeah, but again, it still comes down to the numbers, which again, if the chief wants to
Yeah.
comment on, or Colonel Levine, we do have a high percentage.
Yes.
But again, if there's only 30,000 people in the town and we have a high percentage, that's still different than Providence, Cranston, and Warwick. We may have a lower percentage of more
Yeah.
people, so.
Chief? And so I can't speak to what the other communities have, but over the past 4 weeks, we've been getting emails from the Department of Health that they've set like limits for each community, and we've met those limits over the past 4 weeks and exceeded in overdoses. So we have the volume
What do you mean by
incidences
limits?
at 3 overdoses a week.
Okay.
So we've been having more than 3 overdoses a week in the town.
The opioid companies aren't helping. If anybody has ever had to deal with it or seen it in their family, you know it's not easy.
So you're looking for us for a vote for you guys to
Right,
move
and
forward?
I'll tell you what happens. Not only does the clerk's office get usually 2 copies of this, Mark gets it, Sidney Ferry gets it, I get it, and Al Fiore gets it. We're trying to limit that to what's just the town manager's office, so when it comes in, we can address it as quickly as possible, and then notify the council exactly what's
Yeah, I
going on.
don't think there's a problem with that, and just keep everybody updated, even if, again, if we have this an ongoing agenda item to keep the, and again, if there's nothing to talk about, then we say
Yeah,
there's
I
nothing new has
agree.
happened, and
Yep.
we skip over it, but that way it's on the agenda.
that way we don't forget about it, doesn't get lost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We all.
Do you have any issue with those two running, making decisions? To you?
No,
Do you?
No, I'm good with it.
yeah, as long as we're kept informed and we can let people know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim, should we put that in a motion? So you have
So,
them giving you.
We allow the town manager and town solicitor to act on our behalf as it is a timeliness issue.
I second.
Moving seconded. Any other discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Request from the West Warwick High School hockey team for golf tournament sponsorship, sponsored by Councilman Messier.
This is an easy one. We've done it in the past. I believe the number is $100. Is that the exact?
Yeah, it's on.
It's
we-
typically $100
What
for
are
an
we,
ad.
are we doing like a T sign, are we?
Yeah.
T-sign, yeah.
We've done it.
It's advertisement. It's
At
under the
least,
advertisement.
I don't know if they did one last year because of everything, but we definitely did it the 2 years prior to that, so.
Does that have to be on the resolution too? I know Kristen likes on the resolution,
So
so.
I'll
Well, at
move,
least the vote, so it's
Yeah.
I'll move to the donation to the West Warwick High School hockey team for a golf sponsorship.
One second.
That's for $100.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Well, this is going to be a long one.
Discussion regarding enforcement of building code and property maintenance code violation liens.
Al?
At your last meeting, there was quite a discussion about property that's not in good shape. David, you commented when the questions were being asked, how you and Mary Beth had called me and called Tim, and we both said, there's nothing we can do. Well, after the meeting, Mary Beth and I spoke, and we both felt that this issue was something that not only should the council be aware, but the public should be aware of. Why are these not bad sites not getting corrected? So what I'd like to do is lay the whole thing out. The first thing I think is the background to what actually happens. The state has pretty well preempted what towns and cities can consider as property violations. There's 3 codes out there. There's the Rhode Island 1 and 2 family dwelling code, there's the Rhode Island property maintenance code, and there's the Rhode Island building code. Those are that's the Bible. When they go out, if the building office hears there's a violation, maybe somebody's called in a complaint, maybe they've seen it, they go out, they take a look at it. The first step our building office takes is they send out what's called a notice of violation. That notice says, this is the section of the building code that you're violating, this is how you're violating it, and you have X number of dollars to get it corrected. I spoke with the building office to get some feeling for it. When that notice goes out, in the vast majority, when the person who receives the notice contacts the building office, the problem gets corrected. The building office goes out, works with them, and it gets corrected. For those who ignore the notice, the building office then files a complaint with our municipal court. And again, the complaint states that this is the violation, this is what you're doing wrong, and you're going to be in court on a certain day. Just like the notice of violation, if the person shows up in court, 95% of them get taken care of because the judge works with them, the building office works with them, and the people cooperate. Where we run into the problem is where they ignore it. They don't show up in court. So what happens on that day is the judge gives them a date to have the violation corrected. And the judge says, and if it's not corrected by that date, I'm imposing a fine of X number of dollars a day, and I'm going to have a lien placed on your property in that amount. Okay, so we've got a lien. The problem is there is no way to enforce the lien. There's no state provision that allows us to do anything to enforce that lien. It sits there. If we're lucky and the property gets sold before it gets foreclosed, that new buyer is going to want to get his property corrected. We may have a house worth $200,000 and a lien of $1 million. So at that point in time, I start negotiating with the attorney on a cash settlement, deal with the town manager on the amount of money. But the big catch to it is, we'll do it, but we want a guarantee, and we get it in writing, that the property will get corrected. Where we run into the problem is these liens get foreclosed. When a mortgage gets foreclosed, they get wiped out. So when I spoke with Mary Beth, Tim and I have talked over the years about drafting some enabling legislation, giving us authority to enforce the lien. And my initial thought was, okay, we're able to go for tax sales where they don't pay their taxes. So I went to the statutes and started to look at doing the same thing for a municipal lien that we do with a tax sale. And then I ran head on into the fact that if we put up a piece of property with a lien on it, if we get permission to put it up for sale, what are we going to do? Because that mortgage is still ahead of us. So if we, number one, who's going to show up for a mortgage lien foreclosure when they know they still got a mortgage out there? And number two, if we don't want to buy it, and if we do sell it, the mortgage can wipe it out anyway. So the big problem is the mortgage law that can wipe out all of our liens. There's only 2 liens that the titles refer to as super liens that do not get wiped out by a mortgage foreclosure. One is if the building is in such devastating condition that it is an imminent possibility of danger to our community. And we have to go in and demolish, or we have to go in and board it up. But the guidelines, again, in the building code are very strict on that. And those are the only two means where when we spend the money to demolish or board, the amount of money we spent goes to the tax collector's office and it actually gets attached to their tax bill. Other than that, when you're in this situation, the mortgage companies know it, they ignore it, and they just wipe us out with it. What we have, what I've instituted, and the town is now doing it, was when we put a lien on, and we know that there's a bank out there or a financer out there, we are now notifying that financer or banker that, hey, you got a mortgage on this piece of property, we got a lien on it, and hopefully the banks will do something. I discussed this with Nick Gorham, who's a town solicitor up in Coventry. They do the same thing. And he says sometimes the bank will put pressure on their borrower. Other times they ignore it. So we're in that horrible situation. I have spoken with the building official in Warwick, the building official in North Kingston, the building official in Cranston, and the town solicitor in Coventry, and all of them say the same thing, that there is no way we can put the lien on, and it's a horrible situation, and I hate to say I don't know what to do, but I don't know what to do.
So Al, I pretty much took matters in my own hand this week, and I think I CC'd the town manager and Chuck, and Chuck does a great job, very responsive, gets down there, and I know people don't listen sometimes, but I have a building owner who's out of Boston, right there on East Main Street. I just showed them the pictures, and he's getting fined $500 a day until it's cleaned up. Well, I'm reaching out to the news media now. It's drawing rats. I sent an email letting him know that we have a parade. I'm going to be having an interview with Channel 10 or 12, whoever I can get in touch with to come down here. Put that house on the media because it's drawing rats. It's near the river to begin with. There's rats in that river. There's no ifs and no buts about it. But now it's drawing them up to Giltool in that area, and it's disgusting. So I understand. Your hands are tied. Chuck's hands are tied. I'm not tolerating it anymore. If we have multiple offenders, I'm going to the media, and that's it. And I hate to embarrass the town that way, but it's the only way it's going to happen. It's the only way it's going to get cleaned up, and that's it. I mean, I'm sick and tired of. I feel bad. The same people are sending me messages. They're driving home to go to Maple Avenue or Woodside and drive right by there and say, there's a dumpster with more trash on the outside than what there is on the inside.
People that live there.
And for some reason, they got 2 bins of West Warwick sitting in their driveway when they got a dumpster and the 2 bins are just overflowing, 3 unregistered cars. Tow them out. It's disgusting. We got to clean this up.
Al,
and I know we give you a tough time about it, and I know Mary Beth and I have been going back and forth about this for about 5 months now. And it's been longer, but I know we've really been intense on it. I'm taking it in my own hands now. I don't care anymore.
What you're doing. I don't think we can ask Chuck.
Chuck can't go see Channel 10. I know that, but a councilman can.
Because, believe me, I work with a number of building officials just in this town, and I have never met anybody in the property management that busts it like Chuck does. I mean, I can call him, and I know Mark has contacted me. We discussed issues. That guy is incredible with his follow-up.
He's very responsive.
No, we're not.
Very,
We're not.
very
No, this is
responsive.
beyond him.
Very-
They don't listen. They don't
The
listen.
problem is that I go to him, he comes to me.
But now, if it's a health hazard at some point, when you're saying about drawing rats and snakes and ticks and everything, obviously that brings that negative attention, and you have properties right on the side of it, because this could be anywhere. What are we telling those people that are doing the right thing and now are exposed to all this? They have rights as well.
They have rights, but
So who-
They literally empty the trash. And by the way, we have a trash ordinance, it's supposed to be, the trash cans, the dumpsters are supposed to be gated in. That's not gated in. Secondly, when the dumpster gets picked up, everything that falls down on the ground now ends up on, the dumpster comes unsafe. It's
Would the
horrendous.
Department of Health get involved at that point?
It's an
Would they
8-10
be able,
family.
Tim, well, both of you, would they be able to go after the
If they were
culprit?
notified, one of the things I spoke to the manager about was we could look into revoking the certificate of occupancy if there's a health issue. And then that way they can't rent it out, there's no money coming in, and the people would have to be, they would have to be forced out.
Or if they live there,
I-
obviously the
I-
tenants that are
or-
doing it.
No, what we would do is contact the Red Cross and send them to a flyer saying that this is gonna be shut down. We're working on a certificate of occupancy, we're gonna get these people out, hopefully you can help them out, because this guy's not responding to what he's supposed to be doing under the law. And the other issue is, going back to the enabling legislation, if we were to put into that legislation the issue about becoming a super lien in front of mortgages, the mortgages, the banking industry will spend
Lobby.
hundreds of thousands of dollars to protect that interest, because every city in town, every representative and senator would be on board to support this type of legislation. But they've got too much of a lobby to help us, overcome that mortgage. But one of the ways to do it might be just, a certificate of occupancy was issued a long time ago. However, if there's a way to get at it through that, or maybe other means through the building official's office. But we can't, we can, the only thing, if the building official wants to get the people out because of a health, safety, and welfare issue, and does it appropriately with notice and the correct pleadings, the only thing the court can tell us is less work, you can't do that, put the people back in there. But other than that, at least you'd be before a court.
So I would
Okay.
remind me after the meeting, I want to talk to.
It's an idea, but there again.
I mean, nobody wants to go that route, but I mean,
Jason, I agree, we want to do it, but there again, I'm speaking from what we would be faced with. And as much as I hate to say it, to go in and say, that's unsafe, what does unsafe mean? How do you know that this is unsafe? It's a mess, and it's because we don't have the enabling legislation to do it.
And then Al, the biggest problem I have is, you just saw in Cranston, the big rat problem. I've already gotten complaints of rats in the area, not only there, but also on Knight Street, and everybody's blaming everybody's dumpsters. And I understand that your hands are tied. And like I said, if we're going to reach out to our legislative body. We work very close with. We'll ask them to see if they can support us. If we're going to put something together for them, we'll work with them. But like I said, from here on out, I'm going to let Chuck. And most of the time, I want to say 80% of the time it gets resolved through Chuck. And then there's some issues. Obviously, if somebody has problems, they can't get it cleaned up because they're not physically capable or whatever, and they might not have money or whatever. It might be. I understand they might, but when it comes to trash, just throwing it. I mean, these people aren't even just throwing it in the dumpster. They're just throwing the trash right on the side of the dumpster. It doesn't even hit the dumpster.
Let me make this suggestion in view of what Tim just said. And once I started with the enabling legislation, and I have the list of that I got from Chicago, titled with what is and what is not super liens. Continuing where I began with enabling legislation and trying to get it to go into super lien and see where we go with it. As Tim says, I think every member of the legislature, all we'd have to do is send it, like Portsmouth did when they sent us the resolution to overturn the court ruling. I think every community in the state would back the legislation. Then we face the banks, but that's the legislator's problem.
Yes.
So
Obviously,
I mean,
I've been nagging Al for close to a year now about various properties throughout the
Repeat
town.
offenders is what gets you upset.
And those are the things.
Is there something we can do through
So you gotta come up.
insurance?
You gotta come up.
I know I had a multifamily property in the beginning of my career. And I had gotten a letter from my insurance company. It said, you don't have, I had a set of stairs, it was on top of a hill. Your railing is not tight. Not, see, the insurance company, that's it.
How does the town find out who the insurance company is?
Have to do a title search on the mortgage, notify the mortgagee, mortgagor, notify everybody, ask them what's going on. And again, at the same time, I mean, even if we were having trouble with the super lien theory, because of the banks and the financial institutions fighting it, there's nothing to stop us from going to the General Assembly on the building code regarding the revocation of that certificate of occupancy. Because now the banks, as long as you pay the mortgage, they don't care if you have renters or not. You care if you have renters. If the town's able to remove those renters because of a violation and the certificate of occupancy can be removed, now you can't occupy those homes. Now there's no rents. Now the guy's going to fix them. That might be a better way to go about it.
Well,
Because I don't.
one of the problems there, Tim, is
Again, we could debate this.
Yeah.
Well, bottom line, we have a situation that needs to be rectified.
As a generality,
Right.
not about this property.
This is not, it's not a novel idea for a municipality like the town of West Warwick. This has been going on in states and municipalities for a long, long time.
Unfortunately, people understand and know how to game the system. Yes, fine, you're gonna fine me $500 a day. I'm never gonna pay it. I'm never gonna collect it, so I don't really care. That there has to be some way that we could. And I actually have had people contact me looking to get, and this will be for another day, but looking to get community groups, just like we do an Earth Day cleanup. Let's.
They want to do it monthly.
Yes, they do want to do it monthly.
But the
so-
issue with that, though, is, and that's all great,
Because-
you know, you want that community pride, but for
But
something like this,
That's not an
Yeah, I don't
individual
expect them to go
homeowners,
on there
that's
and
right.
clean that.
But there's
This is
another,
private property.
right.
but if we got, say, all right, for example, you get a group together that goes out and just does it, puts it in the
No, no,
dumpster,
no.
they clean up around it.
No,
No, I'm
not on a
expecting-
private property,
Hang on, hang on. If that were to happen, which can't happen, but if it were to happen, and that happened on a weekend, come Monday, you're gonna have the same thing.
Oh, there's
You know,
no
so-
question.
It's never stopped.
Is there
So it
a-
doesn't- you're right.
is there- As far as dumpsters
So-
go, is there, what's the ordinance for, how many you need per, how
So
many
it's being
people?
closed.
And how,
How many
no,
units?
it has to be closed,
Sorry.
per how many units and how big the dumpster has to be?
4 units in a building.
And, but how,
How big
no,
is it?
they need a dumpster, but
That
how
I
many
don't-
dumpsters, or how big, or how often it needs to be picked up? Is there an ordinance of that? I mean, because I feel like, I mean, this one.
There's
this one
definitely a
needs one.
dumpster ordinance for
Yes.
how the dumpster has to be enclosed.
3
I
sides.
know that.
3 sides.
3 sides.
Which this isn't, in that specific building.
Yep.
Secondly, you know, you're right, is there, you know, that's 8 family, it's got a 3 or a 5 yard dumpster. So is that enough to handle? And, you know, I know, like, even down, it's the complaints I get down with the rats down near Max, I know it comes up from the river, and they start going, they disperse through wherever. But everybody there has taken their dumpster, lifted up, have them inspected, make sure there's no holes underneath. They've done all that. So, but what goes on there is beyond me.
I don't remember the end result, but I know Nicole and I dealt with somebody that was complaining that they had 4 units and they wanted to be treated differently. I don't remember, I can check with Nicole as to how that was, but there are some provisions regarding the number of dumpsters and what the regulations are. I just don't.
I mean, Al, thank you for letting the public know and giving us a full update on why our hands are tied. I appreciate that. But like I said, I mean, sometimes this has been going on for months, and new owners sold the house, thought it'd clean up a little bit. It's gotten worse, and it's the tenants. It's not, and you know, it sucks because the landlord's not doing his job. They got a property management company out of Providence managing it, and by the way, there's an ordinance in place or a law in place that you must have, I would say a caretaker, but
Local agent.
Superintendent?
yeah, a local agent here on site in Rhode Island if you're out of state. So in that town or in the state, I think, I'm not sure exactly, but this is stuff that we need to start checking out and making sure that these landlords are following the processes. So, you know, like this individual in Providence, I'll say it did get cleaned up somewhat, not to, I'd say, a broom standard, but, you know, at least all the trash got thrown in the dumpster, and it's overflowing, and it comes Wednesdays or Thursdays. I even know when the dumpster schedule is pretty freaking sad.
I can tell you that I called Cranston, and a young woman called me back from the building office, and she said, I understand you want to know what we do or we put a lien on property because of poor maintenance or what have you. And I said, yes. I said, that's really, I'd like to know how you handle it. She said, I wish we were down as small as West Warwick, because we probably have a lot more problems than you do. And Alden Cole, who used to be our building official, I spoke with him. And, you know, they just,
It's not fair to the rest of the taxpayers
It's
that are
not.
maintaining their property, and it's frustrating, there's no doubt about that, so.
I wish I had an answer, I just don't.
Is there a way you can take them to court on that lien?
We do take them to court.
We do.
Make them know, like small claims, and
No.
pay.
We put the lien on, but there's no provision
It's actually collected.
to enforce it. For example, if I have a lawsuit and I put an attachment on the property, and that attachment goes to a lien, there is statutory provision how I can foreclose on that lien. There is no provision on how you can foreclose.
If I have the first mortgage and you foreclose on it, the first mortgage still has the right to
Oh, yeah.
take it away from your else.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to try to get something where we can take them to court to collect the money before they sell.
Well, I mean, whatever we can come up with, as I said, I've been nagging Al for a year now, and I feel bad for the people because I wind up giving them an answer that says, yes, there's a $100 a day, or $50 a day, or $500 a day
I
fine.
know, after I spoke, after the last meeting, I just felt that not only the council had to have it, I want to say explain, but I felt that the people who were before you, I know Alan raised the issue, and I don't mean it negatively, but I'm sure that most of the people who raised that issue had no idea that it was not us, not the council, not the building office. It was the law, that we can't do anything about it. As much as we'd like to.
But with all, I don't know, personally,
Not willing
if-
to give up, yeah.
no, I'm not. I mean, if I had a neighbor move in and they were in their property ended up becoming like this, and I see rats over there, it's only a matter of time before they're going to make their way around to the neighboring houses.
I can suggest that the building office
And rats
And
make friends.
notify the health department.
They're right. I mean, and pretty soon you're going to have an infestation, which causes sickness, and that's the Department of Health, and that's where I would go. Right now, that's where I would go.
I'll recommend to the building office, and I'll be the clearing person, that we give it a shot with the health department and see if they can do anything for us. But
if the health department cannot remove the people, and he's still gonna get rents, he's not gonna do it, well, is it he or she?
Yeah,
But the key
is-
the key is getting people
Right.
out where he
Yep.
can't rent it.
So the
And
landlord-
that-
If
I get
if I
it.
lived there and it was like that, I would withhold rent until they fix the problem.
But in the
Well,
meantime, though, you're still dealing
we're
with.
not only dealing with renters, we're dealing with owners.
Well, no, I'm just saying, on a normal landlord-tenant matter, the landlord who may have the 10-unit.
No, you got a business in Boston that's running probably hundreds of these apartments throughout the Northeast, right? They don't really care. They're not here. You know, they're just getting, and then you're getting your rents. It's probably a lot of it could be government money too. That's automatically going to their office. So it doesn't even affect them. You know, they don't even
I guess
look
you
at
can't withhold that. so-
I began to think it was me that just couldn't find the answer until I talked to the toilet.
But while you're doing that, you still have to focus. I'm thinking of a different focus here. I'm focusing on the people that are right there who have to deal with this every day. That's not fair to these people, whether they rent or own a home.
Jay, in this situation,
and I think
in
it's
my-
like sticking up for the, against the bully. That's what it is.
But they also have the right as a tenant, or the person that's in the home against the person that owns it, they also have the right to take it to court.
And what if the tenants all the tenants are the problem? Obviously, they don't have a problem
They're
if
not
they allow it.
Right.
prohibited-
Some do, but
they're not
not
prohibited from
exactly
helping themselves.
Well, thank you, Al,
Thank
for
you very
everything
much.
you're doing.
been a long
We will,
time.
yeah, we'll continue the battle.
I didn't take my blood pressure. Think I'm ready.
You are. Give them verification.
I can feel it. Feel it.
All right, upcoming appointments, Sewer Use Board of Review, one alternate member vacancy with a term to expire October 2021, and one vacancy with a term to expire October 2023. Patuxent River Authority, one vacancy with term to expire June 30th, 2024. West Warwick Housing Authority, one vacancy with term to expire November 2021. Arctic Redevelopment Commission, one vacancy with term to expire October 1st, 2026. And tree warden position. And public forum.
Any public comment? Just you.
The only one.
I don't know.
You disappointed me, David. Alan Palazzo, 5 Robin Lane, West Warwick, and I thought you were going to take public comment when we were talking about Wakefield Street and the rest of it. A couple bits of information. Many years ago, West Warwick had a system called ARCGIS, and it had to do with the whole town. You could look into it, you could lay out the streets, you could lay out telephone poles.
Still have the GIS system.
Who runs it?
The planning department.
Oh, that's an interesting point. I'm glad you said that, because I see Don, or I heard him earlier, and I wanted to call him Jimmy Carter, because he seemed like he was trying to do everything by himself. But one person that I haven't heard brought into this conversation was the town planner. You talked about going to a street and the gas company shows up and the water. It seems like the town planning office would have control over who's doing what, when, where, and how. And that should be folded in.
So you're probably right, but who's supposed to bring him in? Don't you think the guy from DPW would make communication?
I would, but I'm just putting it out there because he's probably has 15 balls in the air and he's trying to juggle everything when the town planner's not there, and he should be.
Did he ask?
And my point, I don't know, I'm just pointing it out to you. You're sitting on the council. You could use the ARC GIS system. You could put it on the town website. This is what we're going to be doing for paving, whatever, and you don't run into the fiasco on Wakefield Street today. In the Navy, we had the 5 Ps. Prior planning prevents poor performance, okay? You lay it all out, people can go there, see what neighborhoods are going to be done when. I received an email like 2 weeks ago. Oh, by the way, people are going to be going around the town. We don't know what streets. They're going to be putting down this stuff. It's kind of sticky. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, over. The issue is, if people are aware of something, yeah, you know what it is. They can plan things out, they know, and it's not going to cause panic. I'm not sure what the West Warwick school schedule is. Warwick was closed today because of Rosh Hashanah.
They were open.
For West Warwick. What about Yom Kippur next week?
No, we don't celebrate any of those
I
holidays.
thought they were all using the same state.
That was last year. That was only last year. That was only last year.
You're allowed to
okay.
deviate, they apply a
So
ride.
I guess that goes out the window. But it seems like if you plan, you put the information out there, people can look at it and they have some clue.
I think we all said communication.
Exactly, but I haven't seen the town planner here in, I don't know, since the last time I'm going to bring up the next subject. But we'll go from there. So that's just the point of order. I was going to save it for last, but I'll cover it now.
Before you start,
Yes, sir.
I have a question with this. I know we've talked about communication quite a bit. Could we put, Chief, the signs up? The electronic signs?
Yeah.
They're up.
They've been putting
But
them
they're
up.
I don't think they're
facing the
enough of
wrong
them.
way.
Yeah.
We
I have to turn it
yeah,
into
now, I'll speak with Lieutenant Hazard about having the other one put up, properly notified. I guess Wakefield Street's gonna be another 3 days for the process that's going on now, and then 3 to 4 days, starting September 15th on, to do the final code. So we'll make sure that the signs are up in the proper location.
It's just a suggestion.
Yeah.
But I think the more communication, the better, because
There's a million West
Sorry.
Warwick Facebook
Sorry.
pages.
Well, actually, there's
It
a
can be on that.
West Warwick
Not a lot
Police
on some of
Facebook
them,
page. Is that something you would consider or not?
Yeah, absolutely. If we get notified, with the Thursday meetings, if we know Thursday afternoon what the plan of attack is for the following week, we can certainly get that up there
That would be
Thursday or Friday.
So over the weekend, everybody will have proper notice
That'd be
from
terrific.
the police perspective anyway, and we can share that with.
Yeah, if you
Messages.
send me an email,
That'd be
get it all out.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
what I'll
Thank
do is I'll put it on anything that I have information on, I'll put it on concerned citizens, tag you, and you go put it on all the others.
No problem, I've been doing that. If you see
Because I
public
don't get to
service
see the-
announcement, and I put a ton of stuff out there. The next item is, and one of your supporters published, who cares about an effing playground? And I said, the children do, okay? It had to do with, first I want to cover Factory Street. Approximately 2 years ago, August 25th, 2019, I raised the issue of the Factory Street playground. And you people did take action. I've been following it ever since. The only thing that I find missing is maybe some grass seed around there. And last time I checked last week, the stripes for the handicap parking. Other than that, that playground looks great. It's being utilized by kids all the time. And I think it's a credit for the town. But I'm going to ask a question, because I'd like to have playgrounds put on the next agenda, is how much did we spend over and above the original disbursement to get it up to code? Now, stand by for heavy rolls, because the same email that I sent out on 25 August 2019, I mentioned, oh, by the way, they're going to be putting a playground in River Point Park, okay? And I believe it was you, Mr. Goss, and assured me, we know what we did wrong. We're going to do it right this time. Here we are 2 years later, and if you go down to that playground, it's a disgrace. It is absolutely terrible. The Governor's Commission's been notified. They'll be here tomorrow at 1. Then they're going to be going down there. DEM has also been notified. They may or may not be here tomorrow. I don't think there's anybody here. Oh, Al does. Al remembers the West Warwick Town dump. Not the landfill, but it's a dump. You remember what I'm just saying.
Just to bring you up to date, Andy Smith put in the paper that you couldn't see the game because of the smoke from the dump.
Exactly. And when we used to practice down there, we used to get covered with the smoke. When I was young, we used to go down there and shoot rats with 22s because, hey, there were so many of them. And over the years, that was fixed. It's a brownfield site.
No, it's not. Brownfield is Brownfield program has been provided nearly $1.76 billion over the years, and it was in 1995 that Brownfield came into effect. There are 7 sites in West Warwick that are Brownfield, and guess what's not Brownfield? River Point. The senior center, all the lots around it is...
Okay, David, but let me continue.
Wait a minute, I want to correct you.
Okay.
Because you went above and beyond to let everybody know that it's Brownfield, and some membrane got busted. None of that has been, and we're still going to wait for DM to show up and discuss that. But again, Brownfield was invented in 1995. That dump was well gone before 1995. 1970-something, it was gone.
Okay, Mr. Goslin,
hold on,
since we're talking about Brownfield, tell me, you said that dump was gone. What happened to it? The smoke emanating with what?
Dirt in 1970-something. Whatever it was packed with. There was no membrane that everybody keeps talking about.
Okay,
It's
so
not a
you
Brownfield.
packed the town dump.
Crompton Fishing Pier. Wait a minute.
Hold on, no.
Here's
We're
the
talking
Brownfield.
about the playground.
I want to talk about the Brownfield zones.
Okay.
We have 7 in West Warwick. Crompton Fishing Pier is a brownfield. West Warwick Senior Center, lot 497, 502, 482, 484, 485, 496, 482, 485, 496 again. West Warwick Senior Center, 501, West Warwick Senior Center, 493, and Royal Mills Complex. All that information, and they were all deemed that in 1995.
And prior to that, you had the West Warwick Town dump. Okay, literally, he can attest to what's there.
I know the dump was there, Alan. We all know the dump was there, but it's not Brownfield as you keep.
Okay, it's not Brownfield. I had been informed that it was Brownfield by someone else.
Okay.
I lived through that dump. I lived through the smoke. I saw the trash piled up. Whether or not it's classified as brownfield, you think it's perfectly well for children to play on that. That's a different story, okay? Because you have built the playground, you've dug down into that area. Excuse me.
Alan, they went above, they didn't dig down. They brought the fencing in, the black stuff.
David, you've got foundations for those swings there. There are conduit tubes filled with cement there. But that's part of the issue, okay? DEM, Mark Dennon will decide that. The ADA side of it, it isn't even close. It's not even on the same planet. And Mr. Williamson has provided you with a checklist for ADA compliance. I'm sure if he went down there, he looked at, shake his head, and we'd probably agree that it's not ADA compliant. Any playground after 2012,
You and I are going to agree on something?
yes, you just had a heart attack, has to be ADA compliant. And if you go there, you can tell me it's closed. I can tell you I go down there and there are ruts underneath the swings. It is being utilized. You can't get a wheelchair in there, not even close. This is 2 years after the fact that I raised Factory Street.
Let me just say one thing. I agree with you 100%.
So why wasn't it done?
So let me tell you what happened, okay? COVID happened, right? We got the list last year from the ADA compliant thing. There was a couple of small things that needed to be done down there. Sidewalk, a pathway, and a parking spot. Pretty much was it, right? Now, we're going to meet tomorrow and discuss it. But how did they get reopened? You ready to hear how it got reopened? We had a parks department that changed leadership, okay? And nothing wrong was done, except for, again, communication. Something was said was, get the parks open for the springtime so we have our kids who are now, who've been locked up in a house for over a year, not being able to do anything, to finally come outside and do something, okay? The direction was, get the parks open. But the direction never was said to the new individual who works their rear end off in this town that don't open up that park because he was never informed that that park was supposed to be closed. So yes, the department itself went out and put all the equipment back in place to the point where we were missing a swing from Factory Street that was actually down in Crompton for ADA compliant, but so we had to take it back from Crompton and put it back up there. I personally did not even know it was open because I haven't been down there. And, you know, I have a tough time with this because I understand the ADA. And I understand, since you brought it up the last time, it was brought to us. And I totally agree with you wholeheartedly. But right now, there was a playground prior to that when Ray Beatty was here. It fell down. We should have been put right back up. We wouldn't have had this problem, right? Because it would have been down, up, and done. Because it was before 2012. But no, now we had somebody.
If you're updated, I believe it has to comply.
But everybody keeps saying, and that's a discussion Councilman Licciardi and I had, because if we do something down Crompton, we put something new in, everything has to be done to ADA compliance, right? So we've had that discussion. Totally agree with you on it. It should never have been reopened. It was a mistake. It's going to be resolved, and that's it. Now we have our meeting tomorrow at 1, and if DEM comes, shuts it down, it's going to be a shame because there was a swing set there for years before that. There's kids playing on that field, soccer, hundreds of kids, hundreds of baseball, hundreds of softball, basketball. They're all on the dump. And everybody, and I coached on there, Jay, you've been on there, on the soccer field. You can still see it on a rainy day. It's not clear water that comes out of that ground. We understand that.
And that doesn't concern you?
DEM has been here before, 10, 15 years ago, and had no problem with it. Because it was brought up 10, 15 years ago.
I had to tell Mr. Denon where that playground was because it wasn't visible on his aerial photographs. I described it to him. But that's only one issue. Since you brought that up, I've had several neighbors raise the issue of illnesses of young children who used to play on that field. But that's an entirely new ball game. I'm not even going to go there. You may want to look into it, but I'm not. My concern is that playground. And when I raised the issue on social media, someone said, oh, We didn't know there was a playground there. We went looking for it. But the question arose, oh, why do we have a gate and the place is closed at night? And it was new to me, so apparently they went down there. There's a gate, it was closed. I drove down there. There's no signs that say closed at such and such a time and reopened.
That's the door, that's all Parks and Rec.
Well, but that's an issue. I wasn't aware of it. I knew the gates were there, and they've done a great job putting the fences up. Not the fences, the rails. It looks good. However, there's no sign saying closed between such and such hours, because someone said, oh, we like to go out with our telescope and it needs to be dark, and we went down there and it was locked up, and it was news to me. So I just wanted to point that out to you. I'm glad you.
Basketball courts, the lights go off at 10:30 and 11.
No, there's a gate across. There was a gate across the entrance.
Can I just give you some insight on that? Yeah. So the gate was put in and was locked at dusk, I believe, open in the morning, because there were vehicles that went out on the soccer fields and did donuts on the soccer fields. They were unwitnessed in the middle of the night. So to prevent that damage from happening, they put the locks on there.
Well,
So that's just recent.
That is
Yeah,
very recent. They brought the keys up to us so we could get keys.
and it's sort of some shady,
overnight.
in my opinion, sort of some shady dealings down to the playground is every time I go down there. But I'm a big boy; I can handle anything. But it's sort of interesting to me what goes on there, and I will not be silenced. So I just wanted to let you know about the gate because that was brought up to me.
Maybe there should be more. Maybe there should be more signage, but typically, it's unless there's a field with lights or basketball court with lights, tennis court with lights.
Open later, right?
But it's typically park closes at dusk. It's dusk till dawn.
There's no signs there.
No,
That's what I'm pointing
no,
out.
that's what I'm.
When it
No,
was
I get it.
brought up to me, I went down there to check. There's nothing there. So, and they go down there to use the telescope, and they were looking for a dark area, and I said, well, maybe behind Wakefield Hills. I don't know if they close off Wakefield Hills, but they talked about ambient light. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention because we're talking about communications again. Okay. Med Recycler. Taxes. I pay a lot of taxes to this town. The summer of 2020, I raised the issue of generator sets outside the building at Med Recycler. There were 3, maybe 4 containers there. They're definitely generator sets because they have the cooling things on top. I raised that issue here, and I think Mr. Goslin said, hey, I've been in the building. The only thing that's there is office space inside. And that's when we get into the discussion about the permit. However, those generators are there. If you went to Med Recycler's website and Sun Pacific Holding, there were some pretty good pictures of allegedly what was in there. There were Providence Journal published a fantastic picture of a generator set and the paralysis equipment, etc. If you go there now, there's only 2 containers, okay? I know something about equipment. No way is that equipment valued at $30,000, okay? Those motors and generator sets are probably a lot more. I had someone who works in the field, he said, you're looking at $500,000, but each year for the past 2 years, you can go check it out, $1,371.60. You all probably pay more taxes than that. Given that this was such a high-profile project, I would have assumed, but we know what that would make me, one of you, somebody, Mr. D'Amico, who took great pride in that project, would have gone down there and seen what was actually there. Instead, you're paying more taxes than that company, and I'm not going to whack Mr. Campanello because he's done, in my opinion, anything and everything that was asked of him to get that project rolling. But the taxes, I've seen, adds, oh, look how much we're gonna be paying to West Warwick. Med Recycler is separate and apart from 1600 Division Road. That building has been there, it's sold, they pay lots of taxes on their assessment. I'm talking about Med Recycler, and as I said, a $30,000 assessment. Are you kidding me?
So,
I think the taxpayers are probably gonna be up in arms over that.
Talking about tangibles, correct?
Tangibles.
So Sal left, I wish he was here for that. And this is also maybe you would be able to answer this, so I know it has to do with if the equipment is not up and running or in the building, can it be taxed as tangible?
If it's on the property without a building license and it's not operational, I can't tell you the answer to that. I can find out.
I mean, that's something we can look into, and that could be the reason.
But the
why.
issue is, that should have been looked in 2 years ago. The first set of pictures I took was in March of 2020. Okay? I took some August of 2021. You're talking 2 years of tax revenue. Meanwhile, I had a guy complaining, oh, my taxes have gone up 5 times since I moved into the town. Okay? I'm talking about due diligence. This is a high-profile project. I looked inside because the windows are there, and it looks like part of the paralysis machine is laying on. It's sort of like if you were told to evacuate this building, and you got an hour to do it, and you just leave everything laying around. You can drive by there. I would suggest that some of you contact Nick Campanella and ask him for a tour, or just go up there, look through the window like I did, and see what's inside there. Okay? It's
I've
that
been in there
simple.
once. I told you that. I've been in there once. The only thing that I see in there is, like you said, there's one piece of thing that looks like a missile.
Exactly.
Not
But I
operating, not doing anything.
raised the issue. But if you look at his website, and
But Alan,
Tom's
some of
not
that-
here anymore, but he said that
some of
that
stuff,
picture.
yeah, but some of that stuff on that website is from their other plans. So that's, you know.
They don't have another
They
plan.
have other, they have.
They don't. There was
Out of
one
this
in-
country they do.
They had one in South Africa and it shut down. Supposedly there was one similar in Arizona or New Mexico. Okay, I'm just saying.
Some of those pictures, what I'm
The
saying.
picture in the journal said 1600 Division Road. Okay, I'm not saying.
The press is always right, Alan.
No, the press isn't even close to being right.
Okay, so.
Which brings me to,
I understand what you're saying, we'll look into the matter, but again, I know I've been on the site, the only thing that I've seen in there was office space.
When was the last time you were there, David?
Over 2 years ago.
Over 2 years ago. This has been an ongoing gun battle
About a year
for
and a
2
half, actually, a year
years.
and a half.
Okay, and it's just somebody should have gone there. Okay, that's one issue. Let's talk about the broken window syndrome. Okay, I grew up in this town. I had someone tell me they thought this building was over 100 years old. I remember this building being built. It was clean. I've raised the issue. Why can't we come up with money to power wash it so it looks clean? The front steps near the ramp still looks like crap, but I'll use that term, okay? The other issue I have, as you know my background, we lost some people last week, okay? And we don't even have flags in front of the town hall. They used to have flags. No, sir. We used to have the flags out front. They even used to put them at half-staff. Okay? I went around the town after somebody had posted. Down in River Point, still flying. At the gazebo, still flying. And I took pictures, and then a Parks and Recreation guy showed up, a young kid, and I'm not going to say anything because he had just been out weed whacking and he was going around lowering it. Okay? But oh my God, everyone says, thank you for your service. This was a tragedy and we can't, show some respect in a municipality. The FOP had it down. No problem. There was one other place I went, private enterprise, and the flags were at half-staff, but not town of West Warwick. And, I get emotional about stuff like that.
You're right. You're right with
And
this.
there was
You're right with this.
no need for it.
And it was brought to the town manager's attention, who will indeed, and has said he will have a more targeted approach when something like that happens. Hopefully it doesn't happen for a long time.
I wouldn't, if I were a betting man, I wouldn't go there.
I just said hopefully. But it was brought to the attention, and yes, it will be addressed.
How about the condition of the town hall?
We need a new town hall, but that's another story.
Well,
Yeah.
the chief's still here because I've had to go into the police station a couple of times over the past 2 weeks because my no med recycler signs are stolen.
By the way, was that any of us?
No. Like I mentioned last time, the Mr. Williamson sign is still there. However, they did charge a suspect, but when I went into the the police station side of the town hall, I noticed that the paint is coming down. Can't you guys do some basic maintenance on this building for them? They need the work. I don't expect to see police officers out there chipping and painting, but we can hire contractors to do everything else. Show some pride in this town. Like we said, Andy Smith, Frank Maznicki, Stevie Alves, Buddy Alves, Tommy Lamb. They have pride in this town. And what the hell has happened in the past 30 years that it's all gone? And I'm just going to leave it at that. You know the issues, you know the problems. Fix them. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Hearing none?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.